What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. Today we're going to be going over the biggest offensive need for a number of teams, talking about what their most important decision is and how it's going to impact us in fantasy. This video will go up on the 29th, which means you got 2 days left to use the promo code on the website. It's 15% off any package we offer with promo code FFA, but that ends at the end of April. So starting May 1st, it's going to be full price, so make sure you take advantage before that ends. thefantasyfootballadvice.com. So we have to start things off as usual. The stat of the day. Yesterday's stat was how many quarterbacks in 2020 finished with over 400 rushing yards. The answer is 8. John Jacobs, first to get that on YouTube. Jacob Massive, first to get that on Twitter. Today's stat. What quarterback led the league in dropped interceptions last season? All right, so let's talk about the draft. Now, first up, we're going to go over some running back situations. And the first duo of teams we're going to talk about, I'm kind of going to do teams in like duos here, except for like a handful, is the Bills and the Falcons. Both of these teams have good offenses and don't necessarily need an upgrade at running back. You know, like Mike Davis is fine, Zach Moss is fine, and these teams are pass first anyways. So they do not need a fantastic ground game. However, there have been rumors surfacing that Buffalo wants to complete their offense. They're looking to get a featured back. And, you know, I think Mike Davis is fine, like I said, but it's definitely possible Atlanta picked him up to kind of serve as the backup. And if they want to really take a chance this season, they're probably not going to win with Mike Davis as their lead back. But these are really big decisions in fantasy because Moss and Davis are going to be assets to us if they skip out on running back because they can definitely be productive. But they're going to be pure handcuffs if either of these two teams attack that position early. Buffalo picks at 30. Atlanta doesn't pick till 35 after their number 4 pick because they're not going to use the 4 pick on a running back. So that's the range we're looking at here for running backs will be concerned about if they draft. I'm honestly hoping that Buffalo does not take a running back and that Atlanta does. One thing that's worth noting is that Buffalo's minus 250 to take a defensive player with their first pick, which equates to roughly a 70% chance. So the betting markets definitely do not think they're going to go after running back in their first pick. But of course, we're just going to have to watch this one because it's really going to impact, or it's really going to come down to, I guess, what other teams do before them, right? Like at 30, Buffalo is probably going to take a defensive player, but what if Pittsburgh, we're going to talk about now, doesn't take a running back? Pittsburgh goes with a defensive player. Now Najee Harris is there at 30. Maybe that changes things for Buffalo. So being this late in the first round and then into the second round for Atlanta, they definitely have to just adapt to what team's going to do before them. So speaking of those teams that they're going to have to make decisions on, it's Miami and Pittsburgh, right? Similar situation for them. But it's not, are they going to take a running back? It's, who are they going to take? Because we know for a fact that Miami and Pittsburgh are both looking to draft a featured running back on Thursday. At least that's their hope. Maybe they have to push it into Friday. Maybe running backs go later in the draft than they think, and they can get one a little bit later. But point is, they want to get a featured back in the draft. We also know that both of these teams are willing to give complete workloads. This isn't a situation where it's like, we've got a team out there that really wants to attack running back, but we know for a fact that they're only giving them like 16, 17 touches a week. They're not going to give them more, but we're not excited about that. Neither of these teams is likely to use a committee. So whoever they take, even if it's a running back you're not all that excited about, you should still be targeting them in fantasy. And I do think the Steelers end up taking Harris at 24. The question is a little bit, will he be there? But I have to think he will be. So Miami drafts at 6, 8, and 36. I personally think there's a strong chance they trade back from the 6th spot. But that's also going to depend on what happens before them. Do the Bengals take Chase or do they go with an offensive lineman? Because if they go with an offensive lineman, maybe Miami wants Chase at 6 and they don't end up trading back. That would probably mean they don't take a running back at 18 because that might be a little bit early to take one. But let's be honest, who really knows? I mean, it goes back to what I said before. I just want whoever these teams take. I have no idea which one it's going to be, but I'm hoping that Miami and Pittsburgh gets one of Harris, Etienne, or Williams. That's what I'm hoping. But even if it's someone else, I'm probably just going to end up liking them. If we look at the odds again, Pittsburgh is minus 300 to take an offensive player first, but that doesn't necessarily mean it'll be running back. It's even odds for running back, so the market is leaning towards them taking that, but only at like a 50% chance, and I think that's about right. I think there's like a 50% chance the Steelers take a running back at 24. Next, we're going to go over some teams that have just situations that we want to avoid basically in fantasy. You know, we go from we really want whichever running back the Steelers and the Dolphins take to we really want that if we really like a player, that they just don't end up on the Jets or the Ravens, right? Like if you really, really like an offensive player that's not an offensive lineman, you don't want them going to these two teams. These are not destinations that we want, especially wide receivers going to. The Jets are just a complete dumpster fire and are just best to avoid in general. While Baltimore, they're really good offense, and they've been linked to wide receivers in the late first round because remember, now they have two late first round picks because they traded the first round pick from Kansas City. So now they've got two of them, but we just don't want them taking wide receiver. I really like Chase, of course, but neither of these two are going to get him. I'm just really hoping that neither of these teams get Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore, and Kadarius Toney. If they get someone else, someone not in that five, then I will be fine. I would just prefer that those five land in just better situations. I love Toney. I think that he needs a very specific landing spot, though, to be relevant in fantasy. I love Devonta Smith. I love Jalen Waddle. I love Bateman. I love Moore. But it's like, can you really see us using those guys in fantasy if they land on the Ravens? Probably not. But if they land in a really good situation, what if they landed, I'm just throwing out a random team, I don't know the stats behind this, but let's say they landed somewhere like Atlanta, right? And then Atlanta trades Julio away because they probably are going to do that this offseason. Well, that is fantastic, right? These are elite wide receivers, or at least I think they're going to be elite receivers, going to a very high volume offense with a quarterback that's definitely aging, could even switch. I mean, there's rumors that Atlanta takes Fields at 4, or they're a different quarterback at 4 instead of taking Pitts. But point is, it's a good offense. And no matter what happens, it's probably going to be a good offense this season. There are other situations like that where if these guys land there, they could be very valuable in fantasy in year 1. But not the Jets, not the Ravens. We don't want those teams to get these receivers. Next up, we've got some quarterback situations. And the question is, does New England or Washington take a quarterback? And if so, how early? Because if they take one in the 5th or the 6th round, then not much is really going to change from our current thinking. But what if the Patriots trade up to take Fields? That's something I've heard a lot. Or what if the football team, decides to draft someone to compete with Fitz? Either of those outcomes would definitely change how we're looking at these offenses. If the Patriots trade up for a quarterback or just take a quarterback where they currently are, then that's a really big boost to their skill players. We'd be able to target, whoever their wide receiver 1 ends up being, and their running backs would be so much more appealing when they don't have a quarterback that's just stealing every single touchdown close. On the flip side, we want Fitz to be the quarterback for the football team this season. So if they take someone early, then it opens up that possibility that Fitz loses the job at some point. Because someone can be a better quarterback for Washington, but worse in fantasy. That's very important to remember. They could switch their quarterback and say, we're actually going with our first-round quarterback, whoever they end up taking, and we think he's going to be better for our team, but that's different from better for us in fantasy. Think back to Winston with Tampa Bay or Fitz in Miami last season. Brady and Tua were much better options for Tampa Bay and Miami, but for fantasy, we greatly preferred Winston and Fitz because they're so aggressive, right? So we'll watch this situation, but I hope personally, of course, I'm a Patriots fan, I hope they trade up to get a quarterback. And I honestly hope that the football team sticks with Fitz because that would be so much more fun to watch. I know it could be fun if they had a rookie. They're finally a good team, but I really want to watch Fitz with this offense for at least one season. So even if they take someone, hopefully they let Fitz have the job. If we are looking at the betting markets for these two teams, the favorite is for New England to take a quarterback first, but it's only 41% with a 25% chance that they take a wide receiver first. And I do think those odds are pretty correct. I mean, my lean is that they take a quarterback in the first round, but I mean, I wouldn't put it over 50%. So I think quarterback, wide receiver are the most likely, but it's the Patriots. They could trade back, they could trade up, they could do something weird with the pick. You never really know what they're going to do. As for the football team, the betting market does have them taking an offensive player, but lineman is the favorite, followed by quarterback, at being like less than 25% for quarterback. So hopefully they do go with the lineman, give Gibson more holes to run through, give Fitz a little bit more time to throw, because this could honestly be a very, very fun offense to watch this season. Next up, we've got the Bengals, and their decision is actually really important. I expect 3 quarterbacks to come off the board in the first round, and then for Atlanta to take Pitts, although it is worth noting, like I alluded to before, Pitts thinks that they're going to take a quarterback. So we could see 4 quarterbacks go in the first 4 picks. But the Bengals have a really big decision to make it 5, because we know the Bengals aren't taking a quarterback at 5. They could take an offensive lineman, protect their franchise quarterback. You've got Slater and Sewell are like the 2. I don't know who they're going to take. I think a lot of people think they're going to take Sewell, but Slater, Sewell, one of them is probably going to be the pick if they're going offensive lineman. And obviously, Burrow ends his season last year because he's getting hit all the time, and then he has this horrible injury. That's got to be in the back of their minds, right? Like, do we just bolster this offensive line and keep him healthy? Or they could go with Chase and give Burrow. That would probably be one of the best skill groups in the entire league. Having Burrow throwing the ball to Boyd, Higgins, and Chase, that's an elite group, right? If they go with offensive linemen, then it'll be a really big boost to Joe Mixon. This is a good offense. It's always been an okay offense, but they've always had a mediocre offensive line to run behind and to throw behind, honestly. So you can have the skill players be there, but if you can't protect the quarterback, you can't open up running lanes, it hurts, right? And so it'll be a big boost for him. It'll also be a big boost for Higgins, Boyd, and Burrow because Burrow should take fewer sacks. He should have more time to throw. He should have a better chance of staying healthy. So those are all positives for their outlook. If they take Chase, well, Burrow gets an even bigger boost because, like I said, Chase, Higgins, Boyd is an elite group to throw to. Mixon will get a smaller boost than he would with the offensive linemen since the offense will improve overall. They'll probably score more touchdowns. That's good for the running backs. But you'd still prefer the offensive lineman if you're a Mixon owner. Higgins gets a downgrade, right? If they draft Chase, Higgins gets a downgrade. But I don't want people to overreact to that happening. Higgins would still get a ton of targets. He is still a very, very good wide receiver. The offense will be improved. There'll be more scoring chances. So it'll be a downgrade. But I think that he'll fall more in drafts than the actual decrease in his value, and that will make him a value. So I don't know if that made a whole lot of sense. Right now, I think he's a good pick. But I think if they take Chase, he craters in drafts, and he shouldn't. He should fall a little bit, but he should crater. And so I think he'll be a very nice value if they take Chase. But honestly, I would just be attacking this offense in general. Either they get an offensive lineman, and that improves everyone's situation, or they take Chase, and this is a very high volume offense, very high scoring offense, at least in my opinion, and assuming that Burrow is going to be healthy, which I think we can't assume right now. And so I would just want to be attacking a lot of these players. But honestly, it's a big one because this situation is also going to impact other teams, right? If they don't take Chase, who's getting it? Does he go to Miami? And does that really hurt the value of Parker and Fuller? Because Miami would not be as high of a total volume offense. And if they're going to add Chase, that really hurts both of them. But then it would also help Tua. It could help whatever running back they get, increasing the scoring chances. On the flip side, if the Bengals do take Chase, who's getting a big upgraded offensive line? Because now there's 2 really good offensive linemen that maybe some teams didn't think would be available at their pick, and that could really help. So going to the betting markets again, Chase is currently the favorite, but it's very close. It's like slightly over 50% that they take a wide receiver, which will be Chase. And then it's like slightly over 40% they take an offensive lineman, which is like traces of other positions. I think the next likeliest is actually tight end, which I don't see happening, but I guess if Pitts was available at their pick, they could go there. Like they take 4 quarterbacks to start the draft. Pitts is there at 5. Do they go that position? I don't know. I don't think it would happen, but that's at least the next likeliest outcome. Honestly, I don't really know what I want. Like, part of me wants them to take an offensive lineman, keep Burrow healthy, give Mixon a chance. But the other part is curious what this offense could look like with Pitts or with Chase. So we'll find out soon enough, but I would just be excited about this team in general. Next up, we've got some wide receiver decisions, and that's with the Packers, Eagles, Lions, and Titans. Do they take a wide receiver, and if so, how early? The Packers and the Titans, of course, have elite wide receiver ones, but both of them could certainly use an upgrade at that second wide receiver spot. I do not think that the Packers taking really any of the wide receivers will change anything for us in fantasy. Adams will still be the number 1 wide receiver in fantasy. Jones will still be high-end running back. Rodgers will still be a quarterback that we're targeting. But the Titans, definitely, a top-end receiver on their roster is going to hurt Brown a little bit. If you watch that video I did breaking down Diggs, Metcalf, and Brown, then you'll remember that, I pointed out that Brown was a little bit lucky last season, and if we're adding a high-end wide receiver, then it's going to be tough for him to pay off his current ADP. So I think those two are a little bit different situations. Wide receiver on the Packers, probably not going to change things. Could definitely change things on the Titans, but that's early, right? If the Titans take like a 5th or 6th round receiver, it changes nothing. Brown's still going to be a great pick. For the Eagles and the Lions, they desperately need wide receiver talent. The Lions' current depth chart is Tyrell Williams, Brashard Perriman, Quintez Cephas, and Geronimo Allison. So even if you don't think Goff is all that good, any wide receiver the Lions draft has a clear path to being their top option in the passing game. So we will be excited about whoever they take. Then for the Eagles, you guys know that I love Jalen Reagor, but their depth chart is also trash, right? Like Reagor, Ward, Fulgham, Quez Watkins probably is the next guy. They need a lot of help. And, it would be pretty easy for a wide receiver to climb that depth chart. Maybe not to pass Reagor, but honestly, would you be shocked if they took a 1st or a 2nd round wide receiver and he was all of a sudden their wide receiver 1? Not at all. So we're really going to like any wide receiver that the Packers, Eagles, and Lions take, assuming it's like a top, 3-round wide receiver. Not as much so for the Titans, because it's definitely possible that whoever they take ends up being overdrafted just because it's like, oh, look, he's clearly the number 2. Right, he's the number 2, but it's on a pretty low volume offense, and he's very clearly the 2 because A.J. Brown's going to be better than whoever they take. And also looking back to the Eagles, we're going to get our answer about their plans with Jalen Hurts, right? Like they have not fully committed to him as their future quarterback, but they kind of have to choose a side during the draft. Are they going to build around him and give him a chance to win, or are they going to draft competition, figure out who their quarterback is, and then in the future start building around them? I think the choice is clear. I think they should build around Jalen Hurts. I give him as many weapons as possible, but you know what? This is also the team that signed Jordan Howard, refused to go away from Wentz last season, even when he was awful. So who really knows what they're going to do? So the draft should be a lot of fun to watch. My initial plan was to release a 1st round reaction video on Friday, but I'm also getting my 2nd shot on Thursday, so I might not be feeling all that great on Friday, but just like the draft, we'll have to wait and see on that one. Also, remember, you only got 2 days left to use the promo code FFA and get 15% off any of the packages on the website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. But that, my friends, is the end of this one. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, then how about hitting that like button, and how about subscribing to the channel if you're new? Thanks for watching.